Finally got it, guys. I have another scary story for you guys. I saw this story on No Sleep a couple days ago, and it was actually sent to me by Amy, so thank you for reminding me to read this story. So I will have Amy linked down below. I'll also have the story linked down below, as I always do, and I'll also have the author linked down below, so you guys should go check out more of their stories. But anyways, let's just get right into it. I feel like Philip DeFranco right now. I've been watching him too much. So the story is called, I Found a Dead Body at My Client's House. I've been working as a landscaper home decorator for the past 6 years, and people have some pretty odd stuff in their house. But this is the craziest shit I've ever seen. Yesterday I was outside my client's house in their backyard, measuring spaces for the new garden they wanted my team and I to put in. The family just moved here only a few months ago, and they still had a few boxes here and there. In the right corner of the backyard, there's a small shed. They looked older compared to the modernized house it belonged to. I asked the dad of the family, Fred, if there were any extra tools in the shed that my team and I could use. He said they had never even gone into the shed yet, so he wouldn't know. Which, I mean, I understand people don't go in their sheds often, but they've been living here for, like I said, a few months. They wouldn't have at least checked it out? Anyways, my team and I opened up the shed to check it out. And by reading the title of this post, you know what we found. There was a dead body, fully clothed, sitting straight up in a wooden chair, dead center of the shed's interior. It was creepy as hell. It was posed to look like it was alive. My team and I thought they were alive for a second. Right as we opened the door, we saw the body and said, "Oh, sorry," and shut it. And then we realized there was no response. And the family said they'd never been in there before. So we slowly opened it again. And we soon realized this person was dead. We all instantly ran out of there, slammed the door, and ran into the house. The family was all in the family room, and right as we were about to scream out what we saw, we thought out of respect it best not to say it in front of the children. So we asked if we could speak to Fred in private. Fred could tell that we were worried. "What happened? Are you guys all right?" Fred said, trying to calm us down. "Sir," I spoke up with a shaky voice, "we found a body in your shed." Right as I said it, I thought, what if this guy's the murderer? And we just told him that we found his victim and now he has to kill us. But luckily, that didn't seem to be the case. He had a genuinely shocked look on his face. "What?" he screamed out. We all ran into the backyard and Fred opened up the shed. He screamed. "Holy shit, how the hell I'm lost for words," Fred rambled. The rest of my crew and I all shared frightened looks. As soon as he opened the door, a chill ran down my spine. We were all confused, but at the same time we were petrified. The body was now lying down on a bed that wasn't there before. It was posed as if it were sleeping. The body was now wearing different clothes. It was in pajamas. "Fred, the body was sitting in a chair before," one of my crew members said. "What do you mean?" Fred asked. "Well, the body was on a chair before. There was no bed in here, and the chair is gone too. I think we're definitely going to call the police soon. They expect me to post an update later or something." We ended up calling the police, obviously. Around 10 minutes after we called, they showed up. The two officers walked to the backyard while we explained to them everything that happened. They seemed really skeptical, but frightened at the same time. One of the officers instantly opened up the shed doors. More chills ran through everyone. The body sat on a tricycle, with its hands on the handles, and the head tilted downwards. "What the fuck?" one of the cops blurted out. "Officer, there was no tricycle here before either. The shit is getting weirder and weirder," George, one of my members, said. We all took a step back from the shed. Something crazy was going on, but we couldn't think of anything. "Zombies aren't real, right?" said Pat, another crew member, in a sarcastic voice. We all shook our heads. I'm not a huge believer in ghosts, but this shit was making me believe anything at this point. The two cops entered the shed and pulled out their flashlights. They waved them around to see what they could find. Mostly just shelves of old tools and random stuff the previous owner had left. We all discussed amongst ourselves our theories while the cops investigated. Fred kept asking things like, "How did the inspector not see this?" While we all asked each other, "Where the hell did that bed come from? Or the tricycle?" "I found something," an officer said. We all walked over to him to see his discovery. It was a door. A really small door. One you would have to crouch to go through. Fred seemed to have an idea, and you could tell it scared him tremendously. Fred's jaw literally dropped, and he put his hand over his mouth to hide it. Fred suddenly ran back inside the house. My crew and I followed him to see what was wrong. We walked inside and we saw Fred putting his kids' coats on them and calling for his wife. He was ready to book it out of the house with all of them. Fred, I said, trying to slow him down. "What's wrong?" Fred looked up at me with absolute terror in his eyes. There was an abrupt scream from the backyard. We all turned around and rushed outside. One of the cops was down on the floor, like they fell over from shock. We all glanced over at the shed. The body was now sitting still at a dinner table, and with the other officer sitting with him. We all screamed. It didn't take a genius to figure out that the cop was dead. Fred began to speak up about his theory. What if the body wasn't moving on its own? What do you mean by that? George asked. What if somebody else was moving the body? Fred said with a shaky voice. We all froze. All of our thoughts were suddenly linked. All of our skin turned cold, our hearts getting louder to our own hearing. In perfect synchronization, we all slowly turned our heads over to the door in the shed, the one the officer who died was investigating. Someone or something was in there. Every time we left and came back, they positioned the body like it was a toy. What a disgusting thing. I can't even process it right now. We're all inside now discussing if more cops would make it better or worse. Even if the answer was simple, we couldn't think straight, knowing there was a potential killer right in the backyard. I don't know what to do now. I'll update you guys when we decide what to do next. After a decently long time of discussing in the house, we decided if we all went in at once, the killer couldn't get us all, right? The cop has a gun, so we made him go first. We walked slowly to the backyard, way more uncomfortably than before, knowing someone was in there. We maneuvered around the dead cop, the other body, gathering around the small door. The cop opened the door ever so slightly, making an unsettling creaking noise. He raised his gun beside his flashlight and looked into the dark closet-like room. I popped my head in to see what he was looking at. The light of the flashlight moved around slowly, going from corner to corner. Then, suddenly, the flashlight stopped. I looked to see where the cop focused the light on, and I saw it. It was a man, hiding in the corner of the room, standing straight up, with his head tilted down and an eerie smile. He was looking right at us. Once again, we had a moment of everyone frozen. There we were, feet away from a smiling man with a flashlight pointed right at him. The cop without hesitation shot the man in the leg, and he fell to the floor screeching in pain. Though he was still smiling. He was like the Joker or some shit from Batman. The cop dragged him outside the room and into an open area of the shed. "Did you kill these two men?" the cop angrily said as he pointed at the bodies at the dinner table. The man simply nodded. "I need you to say yes out loud to me." "Yes," the man finally spoke. His voice was crackly and soft, and his face never ceased to smile. "Why? Who are you? Why are they posed like this? How did you get here?" the cop said as he began to choke up on his words and burst out into tears. It was the messiest interrogation I'd ever seen. I suppose he was close to the other cop. "How did I get here? Is that even a question? I live here." He actually seemed surprised by the officer's question. Yet, the way he said it, he sounded playful. Once again, the Joker is a perfect example of his voice. The Mark Hamill version, to be precise. "Answer me," the cop yelled out in emotional pain. "Calm down, officer. No need to be mad. My name is Stephen E. Burns." Fred cut in. "That's the name of the guy who built this place." The cop decided it was best to continue his interrogation at the police station. An ambulance came to pick up Stephen, and another came to pick up the two bodies. After a few days of waiting for a response from the cops, the officer who was with us, Officer Dean, called Fred. Fred called my crew and I over to his house to discuss what they found. It turns out Stephen E. Burns was indeed the original owner of the house, and the body was the most previous owner before Fred. Stephen E. Burns apparently was pronounced dead a few years back, but he had been secretly hiding in the shed since. The house was sold to Jerry Hayes, who was the first body we found. Weird to think, if I never checked the shed that day, Fred and his family could have been next. Just the feeling of how that small decision could have gone horrifically wrong makes me sick inside. Stephen E. Burns was apparently a childish older man. He used to own a toy store a few streets down. That's the closest thing we can find to justifying his reasoning for dressing up the bodies and posing them like dolls. Creepy ass shit. Not something I expected to happen while being a landscaper. I think this is it, hopefully, but I'll keep you updated if any more insane fucked up stuff happens. And those are all of the updates, so I'm hoping that maybe something else. I mean, I hope that nothing else happens, but I also kind of hope the story continues. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. If you have any other stories you want me to read, go ahead and send them to me. I always have my social media link down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! I've been editing my friend's videos, and I was about to use my friend's outro. My mind is gone. Why is it so hot now? It was so cold for like a week, and now it's suddenly like Arizona weather. All right, see ya.